Welcome to our presentation, The Story of Music on Belle Isle. I would like to give you an overall orientation that will hopefully assist understanding the narrative that comes after it. We are currently on the ancestral land of the Anishinaabe Nation. We honor and give thanks for all they have done to take care of this land. In their language, the word Detroit means where the curved shores meet, and it's pronounced Wa'a Wa'a Tanam. Belle Isle is called Wanabizi. It means Swan Island. Belle Isle it's on the migratory path of the swans. The words of this song that you just heard are, water is sacred, water is life, water connects and unites us. The women are responsible to speak for and care for the water. Thank you, Great Spirit. For the indigenous people, Belle Isle was a very sacred place, especially on the east end where the willow trees were believed to attract lightning, and that gave them a lot of strong feeling of being there and holding all of their mediations. Chief Pontiac led the mediation and held counsel with the water in order to make decisions. So the water was treated as a living being. In 1701, when Detroit was founded by the French, they used Belle Isle to protect their livestock, and it used to be called Hog Island. Having livestock on the island kept them away from predators like wolves, bears, and coyotes. Next, the British took over this area, and they paid the indigenous people rum, tobacco, red paint, and a wampum belt for the land. In the mid-19th century, it is believed that there was a picnic held by the Lewis Cass family where they named Belle Isle after his daughter Isabel during a picnic. Then the island was sold to Detroit in 1879 for $200,000 by the heirs of the current owners at the time, and that was Barnabas Campo, the same name as Joseph, the Campo that you see when you see the street. The big three significant groups that influenced the presentation of music at that time were the City of Detroit, that included Parks and Recreation, Engineering and Planning, and then the second one is the Detroit Federation of Musicians, and finally, the military bands that were led by Edward Schremser. The music you just heard was typical on the ferry boats that carried people from the mainland to Belle Isle. Here you see a picture of the people flocking from the ferry boat, getting off the boat and getting onto the island. The three main locations in the 1880s to 1900 for music were on the ferries. They also played music in the first music shelter. That shelter also was known as the Newsboy Shelter. And they also played music on top of the bridges all over the island. This kind of music could have been what the Detroit Opera Orchestra played, because in 1882, when Belle Isle was open as a park for all seasons, the park commissioners hired musicians from the Detroit Opera Orchestra, which were 20 men, and they got paid $20 apiece. They played Saturday afternoon from 2 to 6. Visitors to the island at that time could listen from the hillside or from the canoes and the canals. So if you ask who played in there, it was Edward Schremser. He conducted the City Band of Detroit and the 4th Regiment Band. They played 47 concerts in 1 year. He became very famous as he arranged the victors. Second bandshell that was on the map with the red dots, it's called the Belle Isle Band Pavilion, and it stood on the Loop Canal. This is what it would have looked like during a concert. You can see it's a marble column pagoda-style shell. It was built in 1902. The people flocked to it. Starting with the 1900s through the 40s, the big main providers of music were Herman Schmemann, leader of Schmemann's military band. Victor Kolar was the assistant conductor of the Detroit Symphony Orchestra. And Edward Schremser kept the music going with his band up until the 1920s in the first bandshell, which is the Newsboy Shelter. Classical music influencers in the golden age of music and also the golden age of Detroit at the turn of the century. From the left to the right, you see Jerome Hosmer Remick, Osip Gavrilovich, and Victor Kolar. This is a slide about Jerome Hosmer Remick. In the middle, you can see his first music publishing company, and that's still located on Library Street in Detroit. And on the far right, one of his best known songs was In the Shade of the Old Apple Tree. And he helped to persuade Osip Gavrilovich to come to Detroit from Europe and helped to install him as the conductor of the Detroit Symphony. He assisted in fundraising, financing, and the building of Orchestra Hall. So the next slide is the third person that was mentioned, Victor Kolar. Osip Gavrilovich hired Victor Kolar to be his assistant conductor of the Detroit Symphony in 1920. Victor took the ball and he ran with it, both creating and conducting all of the free outdoor public concerts on Belle Isle. And he started the Detroit Symphony Orchestra Young People's Concert Series. This was the third shell along Lake Tacoma, which is a little bit, like 80 feet away from the current bandshell. The new round bandshell was dedicated Sunday night, July 12, 1925, to the opening Detroit Symphony concert of a series of 42 concerts. It was broadcast through the Detroit Free Press radio station. Victor Kolar led the music, and 25,000 people showed up. These are the planners of the current bandshell. They started in 1945, City of Detroit, Detroit Federation of Musicians, and the greater community. They requested $100,000 to put up a new bandshell. The main players of doing that were Raymond George Jepson, who was an engineer in the city of Detroit. This is the building permit and a picture of Raymond George Jepson. The sounding board used a new principle of acoustics, projecting music at equal volume to the audience, and the light fixtures didn't glare in the audience's eyes, that just showed on the music. So this slide is of Walter Poole and Leonard B. Smith. These were the main first players in the Remick bandshell. This is a slide of the sponsors who created the bandshell in 1950. It was opened on July 13th, 1950. And this is a picture of the plaque that still hangs on there. And only part of it is there. If you go to the shell, you'll see it. And you can read what the words were on the plaque before it was torn in half. Right here, that the shell was used by a variety of other musical groups, including John Sinclair, the Love-In, Stevie Wonder, Metallica, the Deftones. There's a slide of a 500-member celestial chorale led by Dwayne Grant. That's very inspiring. And this is the current state of the Remick Shell. We're working together with MObig, the DNR, the Belle Isle Conservancy, and the greater community to raise the money to bring it back. This concludes our presentation, and we'll be ready for questions.